AITA for telling my daughter the golden child was just the one we could trust? My name is Emma, I'm 56, and for most of my adult life, I've been the kind of mom who kept extra batteries in the junk drawer, remembered everybody's prescriptions, and could tell by the sound of a cabinet closing whether someone was angry or just tired. My husband, Mark, and I raised our 2 daughters in a quiet middle-class suburb where the biggest neighborhood drama was usually somebody leaving their trash cans out too long. Our daughters, Callie and Rebecca, are only 14 months apart, which meant people always treated them like a matching set. Same schools, same church youth group for a while, same hand-me-down winter coats hanging by the garage door. But they were never the same kid. And that difference is what my younger daughter has spent years calling favoritism. Callie is 34 now. Rebecca is 33. When they were little, they were close in the way sisters that close in age often are. They fought over hair ties and borrowed each other's sweatshirts without asking, and somehow both claimed the same blue plastic cup as mine. People always acted like they should have been the same person in 2 different sweatshirts, but I knew better before they were even in middle school. Callie was not an angel. I need to say that clearly because whenever this story comes up, people assume I'm describing one perfect daughter and one terrible one. I'm not. Callie had moods. Callie rolled her eyes so hard at 16 I thought they might stick there. She once backed into a mailbox and cried before I even saw the dent. But Callie was steady in the ways that mattered. If she said she would be home at 10, she walked in at 9:57. Plans changed, she called. If she borrowed my car, the gas tank came back at the same level or better. She worked babysitting jobs for neighbors, took weekend shifts at a frozen yogurt shop, and saved birthday money in an envelope in her sock drawer. She was not perfect. She was predictable. Rebecca was different from the beginning, and not in a way I ever understood how to handle gracefully. She was bright and funny, the kind of kid who could walk into the kitchen, imitate a teacher for 30 seconds, and have everyone laughing so hard dinner got cold. She was affectionate when she wanted to be. She could write a beautiful apology note. She could also look me straight in the face with tears in her eyes, and lie so convincingly that I would start doubting what I had seen with my own 2 eyes. By 13, we were getting calls from school about missing assignments she swore she had turned in. Progress reports disappeared and later turned up shoved behind her dresser with old makeup wipes and laundry she did not want to fold. Cash went missing from my purse, not huge amounts at first, just $5 here, $10 there, always followed by a wounded, "Why do you always think it was me?" The hard part was that I did not always want to think it was her. I wanted to believe the version of Rebecca who curled up next to me on the couch and asked if we could make pancakes for dinner. I wanted to believe the daughter who hugged me too tightly after an argument and whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom. I'll do better." But Rebecca could be sweet enough to make you forget the last lie, which made the next one hurt even more. Mark and I tried everything we knew how to try. We grounded her. We shortened the groundings when she seemed sincere. We did therapy. I can still picture the waiting room, a stack of old parenting magazines, a water cooler that made a clicking noise, and Mark sitting with his elbows on his knees like he was waiting for a doctor to come out after surgery. We tried rewards instead of punishments. We tried one-on-one time. I took Rebecca for coffee after school. Mark took her to breakfast on Saturdays. We made charts. We made agreements. We gave her small responsibilities so she could earn trust back slowly. We were not perfect parents, but we did not just stand there watching the house catch fire. One summer, when Rebecca was 15, the tension at home got so heavy that my sister Linda offered to take her for 3 weeks. Linda was always the plain-spoken one in the family. She loved both my girls, but she was not easily manipulated by tears or door slamming. "I'm not a vacation from consequences," Linda told Rebecca while loading her duffel bag into the car. "But maybe everybody needs a little breathing room." For 3 weeks, Rebecca stayed in Linda's guest room and helped water her tomato plants. She came home calmer, and for a while I let myself hope we had turned a corner. Then school started again. The first major incident I remember as the point where something inside me changed happened on a Friday night during football season. Rebecca had begged to go to a game with friends. We had gone back and forth for days because she had been caught lying about a sleepover 2 weeks earlier. Finally, after a long conversation at the kitchen table, we said yes. The rules were simple. She had to stay at the game. She had to text us at halftime. She had to be home by 10:30. At 12:18 a.m., my phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was not Rebecca. It was another parent, half whispering, half panicking, telling me authorities had been called to a gathering 2 towns over. There had been a serious situation involving poor choices. Rebecca was there. I still remember pulling on jeans with shaking hands while Mark grabbed his keys. The ride there was silent except for the turn signal. When we picked her up, Rebecca was crying, mascara smudged under both eyes, wrapped in a hoodie that was not hers. In the car, she kept saying, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please don't hate me." The next morning, when Mark asked her calmly how she got from the football game to the gathering, she said, "I didn't. I was at the game." I stared at her from across the kitchen island. "You told me you were at the game." "I was." "Rebecca, the official report says the gathering was 2 towns over." Her face hardened like a door closing. "So you already decided I'm guilty." That became a pattern. First the thing, then the denial, then the accusation that we were cruel for noticing the thing. Callie watched all of this from the next bedroom. She watched us sit in the school office while the vice principal explained another incident. She watched Mark eat dinner alone after Rebecca stormed out because we took her phone. She watched me stand in the laundry room, crying quietly while the dryer buzzed and buzzed, because I did not want either daughter to see me fall apart. And yes, Callie got more freedom. When Callie was 16, she got her license and was allowed to drive herself to school, work, and approved plans with friends. When Rebecca was 16, she had her permit longer than she wanted because she had taken my keys once without asking and driven 3 blocks to pick up a friend. She called it basically nothing. We called it crossing a major line and lying about it. When Callie asked to go on a senior beach weekend with a group of girls whose parents we knew, we said yes after talking to the other parents and setting rules. When Rebecca asked to sleep over at a friend's house after we found out there had been no parents home the previous weekend, we said no. It was not because Callie was loved more. It was because when we trusted Callie, she usually honored it. When we trusted Rebecca, we often ended up with a phone call, a missing item, a damaged car, or a lie. The minivan incident still sits in my memory like a stone. Rebecca was 17. She had been doing better for almost 2 months. Her grades were up. She was home on time. She had even apologized to Callie for taking a sweater and ruining it with hair dye. So when she asked to borrow my old minivan to go to a study group, I wanted to say yes. I wanted to reward the effort. Mark was unsure. "Maybe we drive her," he said quietly while Rebecca was upstairs. I remember saying, "We have to let her try sometime." So we handed her the keys. She came home late, flustered, insisting the study group ran over. The next morning I saw a dent near the taillight. Not huge but obvious. Rebecca swore she had no idea what happened. "Maybe someone hid it in the parking lot," she said. A neighbor later mentioned his doorbell camera had caught my minivan at the curb the night before. Not at the library. Not near the school. In front of the house of a boy we had specifically told Rebecca not to see because he was older, out of school, and known for making poor choices. When we confronted her, she did not apologize at first. She folded her arms and said, "You never believe me anyway." Mark looked so tired that day. He said, "We believed you enough to hand you the keys. That is why this hurts." Rebecca lost driving privileges for months. Callie did not. And in Rebecca's mind, that became proof. For years she would say things like, "Callie got to do whatever she wanted," or, "You treated me like a criminal," or, "Must be nice to be born trustworthy." I tried to explain. I tried so many times that the words lost shape in my mouth. It wasn't that we trusted Callie automatically, I would say. It was that when we trusted her, she usually honored it. Rebecca would roll her eyes. Right. So she was the golden child. And I would back down because I was tired, because I felt guilty, and because part of me worried that maybe she really had felt unloved even if that was never our intention. I softened every truth until it barely had edges. Years passed. The girls grew up, moved out, and built their own lives in uneven ways. Callie became a practical, quiet adult. She worked hard, paid her bills, and called me on Sunday mornings while she folded laundry. She was not overly sentimental, but she noticed things. If Mark's back was acting up, she dropped off heating pads. If I mentioned I was low on coffee filters, a pack appeared on the porch 2 days later. Rebecca's early 20s were rougher. There were jobs that did not last, roommates she fought with, and a boyfriend we were relieved to see disappear. But over time she steadied. She got a job at a dental office, and I will never forget seeing her in scrubs the first time. She came by after work, hair pulled back, name badge clipped to her pocket, and she looked so proud and embarrassed by her own pride. "Don't make a big deal," she said as soon as she walked in. So of course I made soup and only cried in the pantry. She got her own apartment with mismatched furniture, and a little balcony where she kept 2 plants alive for almost 1 year. When she had the flu, I brought ginger ale, crackers, and the soft blanket she used to steal from the living room. I was proud of her and I told her often. That is why the car situation hit me harder than I expected. Rebecca's car was old. It had been old when she bought it, and by the time it failed inspection, it was making a noise that even I knew was bad. She came over one Tuesday evening still wearing her dental office scrubs, holding a repair estimate in one hand and her phone in the other. "The repairs cost more than the car is worth," she said, sitting at my kitchen table. "I can't get to work without a car. I can't just Uber every day." I looked at the estimate. Mark put on his reading glasses and made the little grimace he makes when numbers are worse than expected. "We can help you look," I said. "Maybe something used but reliable." Rebecca tapped at her phone calculator. "I need a down payment. I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking you to do for me what you did for Callie." The room changed. Mark stopped looking at the paper. I felt my coffee going cold beside my hand. "What do you mean?" I asked, though I already knew. Rebecca gave a short laugh. "Come on, Mom. You helped Callie get her first car." "No," I said carefully. "Callie bought her first car from Aunt Linda. You helped. We paid the registration as a graduation gift. She paid Linda for the car." Rebecca leaned back, eyes shiny but sharp. "That's not how I remember it." I had heard that sentence before. Usually, it meant the truth was about to be treated like an opinion. Mark cleared his throat. "Maybe we can just help a little. Let's not turn this into an old argument." But Rebecca was already in it. "Of course you don't want to talk about it," she said. "Because then you'd have to admit Callie got everything. The car, the beach weekend, driving at 16 sleepovers. She got treated like a person. I got treated like a problem." "Rebecca," I said, lowering my voice because that had always been my instinct with her. "Those things had context." She laughed again, but there was no humor in it. "Excuses." "No. Context. You didn't lose those privileges out of nowhere." "There it is," she said, pointing at me. "It was always my fault." I looked at my daughter, this grown woman in navy scrubs with tired eyes, and I felt the old guilt rise up like water in a sink. I hated that she had pain. I hated that some part of her childhood felt like rejection. I hated that I could not go back and do everything perfectly. But there was something in her tone that night that made me uneasy. It did not feel like asking for help. It felt like collecting a debt. I told her we would think about it. She left unhappy but not shouting, which almost made me doubt myself. Maybe we should just help. Maybe Mark was right. Maybe a small down payment was worth avoiding a family explosion. Then my sister Linda called 2 days later. I was folding towels by the dryer when the phone rang. Linda started with, "I don't want to start drama," which is how I knew drama had already started. "What happened?" I asked. She sighed. Did you and Mark actually buy Callie a car? Because Rebecca is telling people you did." My hand stopped in the warm pile of towels. "What?" "She posted something. I don't know if you saw it. Something about how funny it is that some parents buy one kid a car and make the other one beg." I closed my eyes. Linda continued, uncomfortable now. A cousin commented with one of those sad faces. Somebody else said, "That's awful." I didn't comment because I didn't want to embarrass her publicly, but honey, I remember that car. Callie paid me for it. I cashed every little check. After we hung up, I stood there with a towel in my hands until it cooled. Then I checked the family group chat. I usually ignored most of it because it was recipes, birthday reminders, and someone's blurry photo of a dog. But that week, Rebecca had been dropping little comments like breadcrumbs. "Must be nice to have grown up trusted automatically. Some people get help because they're favorites. Some people get lectures." When a cousin asked if everything was okay, Rebecca wrote, "Just realizing some parents keep score unless you're the easy kid." There were sad face emojis. A heart. Someone wrote, "You deserved better." I felt embarrassed first, then confused, then angry in a way that was so cold it made me calm. Rebecca was not just venting. She was building a story in front of the family before asking us for money. I called Callie that evening. She answered on the third ring, a little breathless. "Hey Mom, everything okay? I need to ask you something, and I don't want you to feel like you have to protect anybody." There was a pause. "That sounds bad. Did Rebecca ever tell people we bought you your first car?" Callie went quiet long enough that I sat down. "Yeah," she said finally. "She's said it for years. For years. She says it like a joke sometimes. Or not a joke. I don't know. I used to correct her. Then she'd say I was rubbing it in or acting smug, so I stopped." I pressed my fingers to my forehead. "Callie, why didn't you tell me?" "Because every time Rebecca gets upset, everybody looks at me like I should make myself smaller." Her voice shook on the last word, and that hurt more than if she had yelled. I paid Aunt Linda $1,200. Babysitting money, frozen yogurt money, graduation cash. I remember because I wanted that car so badly, even though the passenger window stuck if it rained. "I know," I whispered. "She tells people you handed it to me because it fits better with the golden child thing." I did not know what to say at first. I had spent so many years worrying that Rebecca felt unseen that I had not noticed Callie becoming invisible on purpose. Then Callie said very softly, "Mom, I'm tired." That was the sentence that made my decision for me. I did not fight in the family group chat. I did not comment under Rebecca's post. I did not send a long message with screenshots and receipts, although I typed one in my notes app at midnight and then deleted it. Online arguments have a way of turning everyone into a performer, and I did not want a performance. I wanted the truth to have a chair at the table for once. So I invited Rebecca, Callie, Mark, and Aunt Linda to Sunday dinner. Mark knew something was coming. He watched me take a folder from the cabinet where we keep tax papers and warranties. "What's that?" he asked. "Things I need to remember." Inside the folder were old therapy invoices, a copy of the official report from the gathering incident, the handwritten plan we made when Rebecca was 17 about how she could earn privileges back, and the note Callie wrote to Aunt Linda with one of her car payments. It said, $100 for the car. Only $400 left. "Thank you, Aunt Linda." Callie had drawn a little smiley face in the corner. I did not plan to shove those papers in Rebecca's face. I did not want to humiliate her. But I needed something solid near me. I needed proof, even if only for myself, that I was not cruel, crazy, or unfair for remembering what actually happened. Sunday dinner looked normal from the outside. Roast chicken, green beans, boxed mashed potatoes because I was too tense to peel real ones, and a store-bought apple pie still in its plastic dome on the counter. Rebecca arrived in jeans and a sweater, not scrubs, which somehow made her look younger. Callie came 5 minutes later and gave me a hug that lasted 1 second longer than usual. Aunt Linda brought rolls. Mark kept refilling water glasses even when nobody had taken more than 2 sips. Nobody said much at first. Every fork scrape sounded too loud. Rebecca tapped her nails against her glass. Callie stared at her plate. Linda looked like she wished she had brought something stronger than rolls. Halfway through dinner, Rebecca set down her fork. "So," she said, "did you guys talk about the car?" Mark looked at me. I could feel him hoping I would keep it practical. "We did," I said. Rebecca's face tightened. "And we are willing to help you make a plan. We are not willing to just hand over a down payment." She gave a small bitter smile. "Right. Because I'm me. Because it's a lot of money, and because the way you're asking matters." Her cheeks flushed. "The way I'm asking? You mean asking you to treat me like you treated Callie?" Callie's shoulders moved slightly, like she had been hit by something small and familiar. Rebecca turned toward her. "What? You know it's true." Callie said nothing. Rebecca looked back at me. "You helped Callie without making her prove she deserved it." Linda shifted in her chair. I set my water glass down. Not hard. Just carefully. "No," I said. Rebecca blinked. I kept my voice even, though my hands were shaking under the table. No. Callie got more freedom because we could trust her. You did not lose those chances because we loved you less. You lost them because every time we gave you trust, you broke it. The room went completely silent. Mark froze with his napkin in his hand. Aunt Linda looked down at the table. Callie's eyes stayed on her plate, but I saw her lips pressed together. Rebecca stared at me in disbelief. So I'm just the family problem forever, she said, her voice rising. That's what you're saying? No. That is exactly what you're saying. I am saying your choices had consequences. She pushed her chair back an inch. You are throwing my past in my face at dinner. You brought the past to dinner when you used it as a bill. Her eyes filled with tears, and for a second, the old instinct nearly took over. I almost softened it. I almost said, that came out wrong. I almost picked up the blame because it was familiar and because Rebecca crying still made me feel like a young mother failing an impossible test. But then I looked at Callie. My older daughter was sitting there, 34 years old, making herself small at my own table because she had learned that defending herself only made things worse. So I did not take it back. Rebecca, I said. I love you. I am proud that you turned your life around. I am proud of your job. I am proud of your apartment. I am proud every time you choose stability when I know it was hard for you to get there. But being proud of who you are becoming does not mean I have to pretend your choices never happened. Rebecca wiped at her face angrily. You don't get to act like it was all my fault when you treated me like I was already guilty. We treated you according to what had happened, I said. Not what we feared. What had happened? Mark said quietly. Maybe we don't need to settle every old argument tonight. I looked at him and he stopped. Because we both knew that was what we had been doing for years. Not settling anything, just tucking it under the rug and asking Callie not to trip over the lump. Rebecca pointed toward Callie. She got a car. Callie closed her eyes. I said, Callie bought that car from Aunt Linda. Rebecca shook her head. You helped her. We paid registration as a graduation gift. That is all. Linda cleared her throat. Her voice was uncomfortable but steady. Honey, I remember that car. Callie paid me $1,200 for it. Every 2 weeks until it was done. Babysitting money, yogurt shop money, little checks with careful handwriting. I cashed every one. Rebecca's face changed. Not confusion. Not surprise. Something closer to being cornered. That's not how Mom made it sound back then, she muttered. I opened the folder. I did not spread everything out. I only took out the old payment note and placed it beside my plate. I found this, I said. I kept it because I thought it was sweet. Callie looked at the note and gave the smallest, saddest laugh. I forgot about the smiley face, she said. Rebecca would not look at it. Linda said gently, Rebecca, you can be upset about your childhood without making that part up. Rebecca stood so fast her chair scraped the floor. I didn't make it up. I remembered it differently because that's what it felt like. Callie finally lifted her head. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the room. I'm tired of being the villain in a story I didn't write. Rebecca turned on her. Oh, please. Callie's hands were clenched in her lap. I never asked for more. I just stopped breaking the rules. Nobody moved. For years, Callie had been the quiet one, the easy one, the one we assumed was fine because she did not demand proof that she mattered. Hearing her say that out loud made my throat burn. Rebecca grabbed her purse from the back of the chair. You all just proved I was never wanted here. That is not true, I said. It feels true. I understand that it feels true. But feelings are not permission to lie about your sister. She looked at me with tears on her cheeks and anger in every line of her face. You always choose her. Then she left. The front door closed hard enough to rattle the little picture frames in the hallway. The pie sat untouched on the counter. Mark rubbed his forehead. Linda exhaled like she had been holding her breath for an hour. Callie stood and began collecting plates because that is what she does when she is overwhelmed. Leave them, I said softly. She shook her head. I need something to do. After Linda and Callie left, Mark and I cleaned the kitchen in near silence. He scraped green beans into a container. I wrapped chicken in foil. The house felt too quiet, like the argument had taken all the air with it. Finally, Mark said, maybe you were too blunt. I put a plate in the sink and turned on the water. I probably was. He looked relieved for half a second, like I was about to apologize for all of it. Then I said, "But I wasn't wrong." He leaned against the counter. "She might pull away again." "She might. I just don't want to lose her." "I don't either." My hands were shaking now that the dinner was over. But I have spent years softening the truth for Rebecca. I did not realize Callie was the one getting cut by it. Mark did not answer right away. Then he looked toward the hallway, where the door had closed heavily earlier, and said, "I know." That night Rebecca sent 6 texts. The first said, "I hope you're happy." The second said, "You humiliated me in front of everyone." The third said, "Don't pretend you care if I lose my job because I can't get there." The fourth was just, "Unbelievable." I read them all. I did not answer right away. That was new for me. Usually, I rushed in to patch the hole before anyone had to sit in the cold. The next morning I wrote back after coffee. "We love you. We are willing to help you make a plan. We are not willing to rewrite the past to make that help feel owed. We will not give you car money as a guilt payment. We can drive you to work 2 times a week for 1 month while you look. Dad can help compare used car listings. If you save a set amount, we will match part of it within what we can afford. But public accusations about Callie and false stories about the car need to stop." Rebecca replied almost immediately, "So conditions. Like always." I typed, erased, and typed again. "Boundaries are not rejection." She did not respond. For 2 days I heard nothing. I worried. Of course I worried. Loving an adult child does not come with an off switch just because you finally set a boundary. On the 3rd day, Callie texted me privately, "Thank you for not letting me be the reason anymore." I was standing at the kitchen counter when I read it. The same counter where Rebecca had sat with her repair estimate. The same counter where I had signed school forms, sorted mail, and packed lunches years ago. I read Callie's message twice, then put the phone down and cried into my hands. That message broke my heart and healed something at the same time. I called her later and she tried to brush it off. "I didn't mean to make you cry," she said. "You didn't," I lied. She gave a small laugh. "I just know Rebecca had a hard time. I know she felt things I didn't feel. But sometimes it's like the only version of the story anyone is allowed to say is the one where I got handed this perfect childhood. And I didn't. I was scared a lot. I was lonely sometimes. I felt guilty for doing normal things because she couldn't. I closed my eyes. I should have seen that. I know you were trying to keep peace. That doesn't make it fair." "No," she said. "It doesn't." That was hard to hear, but it was honest. And honesty was what I had asked for, so I did not run from it. A week later, Rebecca deleted the post. Linda called and told me because I had stopped checking. Then Rebecca texted me, "I shouldn't have said you bought Callie the car." I stared at the message for a long time. A minute later another one came through. I remembered it wrong. It was not a full apology. It was not the kind of accountability people imagine when they picture a dramatic family healing scene. She did not say, "I lied because I wanted you to feel guilty." She did not apologize to Callie in that moment. She did not suddenly understand every consequence of every choice she had ever made. But she corrected the story without me forcing her to do it publicly, and for Rebecca that was not nothing. I replied, "Thank you for saying that." Eventually, she accepted Mark's help looking at used cars. She refused rides from me at first, then asked if I could take her on Wednesdays because her early shift made the bus schedule difficult. The first Wednesday morning, she got in my car with a travel mug and tired eyes. For the first 10 minutes we said almost nothing. Then she looked out the window and said, "I know I wasn't easy." I kept both hands on the wheel. "No," I said gently. "You weren't." She swallowed. "I still feel like you liked her more." "That hurts to hear," I said. "But I'm willing to talk about how you felt. I'm not willing to call every consequence favoritism." Rebecca nodded once barely. It was not a breakthrough. It was a crack in a wall. Sometimes that is all a family gets at first. Mark later admitted he was glad I had said what I said, even if he hated the way it happened. "I wanted peace," he told me one night while we were turning off lights before bed. "I know. But maybe what we had wasn't peace." "No," I said. It was silence. And silence had been expensive. It cost Callie the right to defend herself without being called smug. It cost Rebecca the chance to hear the truth before resentment hardened into a script she could repeat. It cost Mark and me years of apologizing for decisions we had made to keep a teenager safe after she showed us, again and again, that she was not ready for certain freedoms. I still love both my daughters. That has never been the question. I love Callie with her quiet steadiness and her habit of noticing when everyone else is running low. I love Rebecca with her sharp humor, her wounded pride, and her hard-won progress. I can be proud of Rebecca's adult life without pretending her teenage choices had no consequences. I can regret the pain in our family without accepting blame for things I did not do. For years, the phrase golden child worked like a weapon in our house. It made Callie shrink. It made Mark retreat. It made me apologize before I even understood what I was apologizing for. I do not let it do that anymore. The truth is not that one daughter was loved more. The truth is that one daughter was trusted more because she kept giving us reasons to trust her. The other daughter was loved just as much, but love did not make the damaged car disappear, or the official report vanish, or the lies become misunderstandings. Rebecca still has work to do. Maybe we all do. But the story has changed in one important way. When someone says Callie was the golden child now, I do not smile weakly and let the lie sit there to keep the room comfortable. I say no. She was not loved more. She was trusted more. And there is a difference. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.